This is Matt Halpern, one of the most influential prog rock drummers of the past decade, melting faces since 2010 as a member of Periphery. His drum parts combine some of the brain-breaking math metal, poly, vector, whatever rhythms that get prog heads going, and the precision required to make those parts work. But also a uniquely human, organic, old-school groove that makes the music more accessible to jazz heads like me or aficionados of old-school rock like Zeppelin. So that's Matt. Then there's me. Matt. Me. And in this video, Matt's going to react to me playing one of his band's hardest songs, Drakelgrass. And if you stick around, or let's be real, just skip ahead, you'll see my complete take of the song. But you'll want to stick around because I'm going to show you a bunch of things I learned about how to play the song, and also share the tips that Matt shared with me. You see, this past month, I got a chance to talk to Matt on my podcast. And I couldn't just leave it there. I decided to try to learn one of his band's hardest songs, then get Matt's reaction to my performance, along with some tips to make my prog rock drumming better. And as I said, in this video, I'll show you the whole process of my learning the song, how I practiced it, what musical choices I made, how I adjusted things after speaking to Matt, and even demonstrate how to play some of the trickiest bits of the song. And yes, at the end of this video, I'll show you my entire final performance of the song, uncut. Today on 80/20, Matt Halpern reacts to, then shows me how to get better at, one of his band's hardest songs. Stay tuned. And just to let you know, if you guys want a free transcription of one of the hardest parts of the song I'm going to discuss today, the weird 5/16 kick drum ostinato in the chorus that keeps changing, the thing I've been calling the clave, we'll have that for you below the player. Just click the link below the player and tell me where to send it. You'll also get a free drum course for your troubles. More on that later. Now, on with the lesson. I first became acquainted with Periphery when we made a course with the bass player Nolly in 2019 at my old day job. One of the first songs I heard was called Prayer Position. Then I saw JP Bouvet's video on subbing for them. Last year, I was smitten enough to make a video in which I tried to learn 3 of their songs, asking the question, could I do the gig if I had to? Answer, based on last year's performance, I probably wouldn't crash and burn, but I was nowhere near the fire and creativity Matt brings to it. Since then, I've been working a lot on my volume and energy and listening to a lot more prog rock like Periphery and Tesseract. I've also watched Matt's video playthroughs religiously. Those helped a ton when I was learning the songs for last year. So when a new one dropped in early 2023, I was onto it in a hurry. Drakelgrass. It had all my favorite things about prog rock. Thundering gent riffs, I think that's what it's called, correct me in the comments. Lots of delicious, and I'm borrowing my friend Steve Lyman's word here because I think it describes it best, vector rhythms. We'll get into that later. Lyrics about blood and feeding on the living, lots of screaming, and underneath it all, a grooving backbeat that would sound right at home in a Zeppelin song. Of course, it wasn't until months later that I got the opportunity to interview Periphery's drummer, Matt Halpern, for the 80/20 podcast.
What's up, man?
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for the interest in having me on, man. That's awesome.
And I felt I had just enough time to learn something new. As it turned out, and let's be honest, as it always turns out, it was a tall order. Little background. In case you're thinking, hang on, you learn other people's songs and then they react to them on your channel? Yes.
Well, look.
And tear me to shreds.
Okay. Well,
pretty much. As I said, one of the things that inspired this series was when JP Bouvet vlogged about subbing for Periphery a few years ago. Since then, I've been obsessed with being the guinea pig who tries to jump into other drummers' shoes as a way to test my abilities, push myself to learn faster, and get a nice healthy dose of humble pie. So that's why I knew I couldn't resist learning a Periphery song for Matt. I just didn't know it would be this hard. This is gonna be on the ragged edge, you guys. But to be fair, I never think it's gonna be that hard. At any rate, I now had 3 days to learn Drakelgrass. All right, kids. Drakelgrass! Drakelgrass! Day 1. What do you want me to paint you a picture? Let's use Matt's playthrough of Dracula to acquaint you with the overview as it would have seemed to me on first listen. We'll get into more detail later. By the way, Dracula, or Fat Dracula. Lead singer Spencer Sotelo tweeted that the song was literally a humorous meditation on a fat Dracula. So there you go. So at the top, I noticed this 5/16 thing. And also that it's varying in irregular places. Great. The verse comes in and it's got another cyclic ostinato Matt's catching with the kick drum. Another thing I'll have to memorize. This appears to continue throughout the verse until this tom thing. I can tell there's an underlying 5/16 thing again, but I can't tell what it is. Into the chorus. More 5/16. Is this the same as the tom part? I'd have to figure that out. After the chorus, something new. This bit, which I've been calling the big band section. Then to this halfway second verse and more 5/16. Same as the other spots? I was assuming yes, because motifs in music, and also why would you do a ton of extra work making it different every time? Finally, a transition section, with more big band hits and some interesting phrase shifting. Was all this still in 4? Did it matter? Then, end of the beginning. I should mention the complete song is over 13 minutes long, with a slow middle section and then kind of a reprise with variation at the end. As I only had 3 days, I was only learning the overture, the first 3 minutes and change. I thought that was plenty. I texted back and forth with Matt about whether he was game to give my rendition a listen. Like the mensch he is, Matt agreed. With the stakes set, I hopped into the practice room for the last day of practice. We've got a little bit of a revised remit. Matt's agreed to check out whatever I've got at the end of the night and give me some pointers. And of course I have to record the complete tune by the time I need to make this video. But we are going to drill that recurring 5 polyrhythm that's the motif throughout the song over and over until we get it. If we have time, we'll move on to that little break, which I think I can just transcribe like it's a big band chorus. That is the agenda. We'll see how it goes. You might be wondering what I did to practice this. The short answer is loops. The first challenge was the opener. I looped this and spent a whole afternoon on it. This was the result. I also made a cheat sheet on the whiteboard at my studio. I promise we'll get into that in greater detail later. Next was the verse. Same thing, I just chicken scratched this down on a whiteboard. Finally, I needed to learn the chorus. And what I'll call the clave, that 5/16 thing happening underneath. I experimented with a few ways of notating this, and ended up with this, which, you guessed it, I'll show you later. But it was now the night before my interview with Matt, and I needed to get something down. I realized I wasn't going to have anything close to the whole 3-minute overture learned. So I cut my losses and made this recording. Let's give it a listen. I swallowed hard and sent it to Matt. He responded that it was interesting and that he had some questions. Perfect. It was time to learn Matt's opinion of my early rendition of Drackle and see if he had any tips.
When I was learning that song, I tried my hardest to not focus on any analytical aspects of the rhythm. I wasn't counting. I wasn't figuring out what the time signatures were. I wasn't thinking about this snare drum needs to be here, this bass drum needs to be here. I was simply just trying to say to myself, okay, let's just listen to the song. Like, what's happening on the guitars? What are the ambient sounds? What, if there's vocals, like what are the vocal melodies and what are the lyrics and everything else? Because by doing it that way, I'm able to sort of like memorize the whole thing as opposed to just the drum part. And then it becomes very easy to say, okay, here's the most obvious drum part for the song, and this is what feels the best, even though there's like 20 other things that we could be doing. I think what the goal should be, if I'm giving you and anybody else an assignment with this to try out, it's, can you sing back the melodies before you play them? Okay, that's the goal. Can you sit there and literally hum what the melodies are doing? Because if you can do that, then you've internalized the song, and then it's very easy to figure out the drum parts. One other thing that I think could be really helpful is when you are practicing it or learning it, is doing it with a click, and doing it with a click that matches the fastest rate of the song. So in that case, it would be the 16th notes, because within that rate, you have all of those accents. See what I mean? Like they all fall within that rate.
All right, you guys, so we just finished talking with Matt. Super generous with his time, got a lot of great stuff out of it. More than I can include in this video. I'll help you watch the whole interview, but definitely got some good tips for making this tune better, so let's go do it. Here are the primary things I got from my first convo with Matt. Don't just think of the drum part, think of the song. I realized something similar when I was learning jazz songs. If instead of visualizing the big band section as only hits written on a page, I memorized what the guitars and bass were doing, I'd have a more complete picture of what to play. Just as an example. For the clave section, that's not just a polyrhythm the guitar and bass are playing, there's a scale and harmony, etc. Next, don't subdivide unnecessarily with your body, as it'll interfere with the flow. Think big beat, especially with the lead arm. And finally, learn it well enough to have fun. If I send another take where I look like I'm sight reading, that'll miss the point. Watch Matt play it again. That's the look of somebody who has the song totally internalized, so he can play it in his sleep. Then he's not sweating every tiny break in the song, he's just flowing. I'm not going to get to that level with this song, but I need to memorize it well enough that I'm not all up in my head when I'm playing. That will take a couple more weeks. Okay, it's week 2, day 2, I think. Anyway, the goal today is to record the whole thing, and if we do that, we're going to make the whole video, and we're going to send that to Matt. But if we can't, then we'll just take as long as it takes. Now is the part of the video for the nerds. If you just want to see the final performance, you can skip to the time index here on your screen. But if you're interested in peeling back the layers and seeing into the DNA of the song, and understanding what makes it so difficult to learn, you'll want to stick around for this middle part. This will cover all the little things I had to learn in the intervening weeks in order to play the final performance of the song. The song opens with this 5/16 thing. You may remember Matt told me explicitly that he doesn't over-intellectualize. But I don't have his instincts, and I still have less time, so I'm going to do my nerd thing and hope that extra pipelines the stuff to my mental. Plus, I think it'll help you, the viewer, understand all the structure that's underneath. You feel me? Super quick demo. What you're watching me play is 5/16. This is one of the 2 common ways of grouping it, with 3 then 2. The other way would be 2 and then 3. Okay, next layer. Instead of playing strict 5/16, you can play it so that it cycles over 4 and 16 notes. Here, I'll catch the 5/16 with the kick while playing 4/4 with the snare and hats. You've probably heard beats like this from such artists as Tigran Hamasyan, and oh yeah, all of prog rock. Next layer. It's it's also a common prog rock conceit to vary things. That means you're not just doing straight 5/16. Let's say you do a set of 3 groups of 5/16, then a bar of 2/8. That would sound like this. So you've got a pattern on top of a pattern. But now, let's say you mess with that pattern too. You might impose another pattern of 3 sets of 3 groups of 5/16 before your bar of 2/8, then 1 group of 2 sets of 5/16 before a set of 2/8. That would sound like this. And just for fun, let's play it over 4. Whee! Finally, you might add a little randomization, just to be human and wabi-sabi. That's what I believe is happening at the start of Dracograss. Let's listen to me play it. Now, I'll hold up a whiteboard of how I notated it, which I'll kind of count for you. 1 da da, 2 da da, 3 da da, 1 da da, 2 da da, 3 da da, 4 da da, 1 da da, 2 da da, 3 da da, 4 da da, 1 da da, 2 da da, 3 da da, 1 da da, 2 da da, 3 da da, 4 da da, 1 da da, 2 da da, 3 da da, 1 da da, 2 da da, 3 da da, 1 2 3 1. Next, remember the tom section? And the chorus. And how I'd guess they were the same pattern? Well, turns out they are. This pattern repeats throughout the song, in pre-choruses, choruses, and okay, mainly those 2 parts. But here I am on Instagram tapping out this pattern with the notation in front of me while listening to the song. And it's this clave notated in 2 different ways, which will be transcribed for you below the player. If you want to download it for free, just click below. But just knowing that intellectually is a far cry from playing it. I realized if I didn't want to be white-knuckling the whole thing, I needed to memorize this clave, and know it cold. Then there was the challenge of playing the doubles with a single kick. Because that required some balance and anticipation, I had to know the part really well. Let's talk about another major rhythmic theme in this song, the verse. That's got an ostinato that's 19/16 notes long, cycling over 4. But it's easier to think of it as a bar of 4 with 3 lopsided 16ths at the end that reset the cycle. Let's hear it in the song. Now, let's hear me play it. This continues into the first half of the pre-chorus, but now it's only the first half of this pattern. So that was the second thing I needed to memorize. Then, there were the big band hits. I won't spend too much time on those because those are more like a big band shout chorus, like Buddy Rich big band stuff. But suffice it to say, I had to spend some time on these as well. But actually, the last major hurdle in learning the song was this, the Matt Cameron section. Underpinning Craig Reynolds' sentiment that every drummer named Matt is better than I am. Anyway, this section has the clave from the choruses, but it's played over the toms, and you're catching cymbal hits. Halpern actually had his own system for playing this, which was even more complex than what I did, but let me show you how I did this. First, I just played the 5/16 groups low, high, like this on the drums. Next, for each macro group of 5/16, I start over on the low tom. That creates a melody like this. Next, I play quarters on the kicks and backbeats on the snare. And finally, there's this little cymbal flourish I'll demonstrate here. Here's what the whole thing sounds like. Are we tired yet? So this should give you a little window into what I went through learning the song. Does that make this video an effort post, you guys? I think it's an effort post, right? Yo, we're here on what I hope is the last day of recording. I think we're in the spot where however we do today, we're gonna publish the video. So yeah, I feel pretty relaxed. I've had like 3 weeks with this song, so we're just gonna jam. All right. If you stuck around this long, let's give you the final performance.
I'm listening when I'm driving in my car. Funny enough, Dracul Grass was like my timer song for my ice baths for a while when I was learning it. Honestly, like I would put that song on because then I didn't have to look at the timer, and I knew it was around 10, 11 minutes, which is what my goal was for being in the ice bath. So I would just do other things, and I had a lot of time to do that, to really internalize it.
Did we learn anything? I feel like this is the furthest I've ever taken a cover. Usually I'll try to cram the song, then after the artist responds, if it's not perfect, I'll do a little touch up. With this one, Matt's critique was more like the start of the journey, then the work came afterward. What do you think? Leave a comment below. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, this is one of the hard ones. But if only a few people see it, it's for the deep fans. Thanks again to Matt for coming on the podcast and indulging me. And guys, if you'd like to get a completely free transcription of the clave section of the song, which will get you started, just click the link below the player and I'll send it to you for free. I'll also send you a free drum course. How about that? Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoy these. See you again real soon in another lesson of the week. Just for fun, let's play it over 4. Oh, can we even do this? Ah, kill me. Ah!